Hello and welcome, and it's such a pleasure to have with us right here in the NDTV studio one of the greatest tennis players of all time. So put your hands one together for the one and only Boris Becker.
Thank you very much.
And we have an audience of a lot of people out here who are itching to ask him questions, and I will be coming to all of you. We are also taking questions on social media, so send them out on Twitter, Facebook, what have you. I promise to take a lot of those questions as well and put them to Boris. But it's great to have you here in India with us, and it's I'm going to be asking you about what brings you here and your associations and all of that. But the first big question that I've just got to start off with, of course, is the big news event, if you like, of now, which is, of course, the splitting with Novak, and then the fact that you've now announced that that partnership is coming to an end. What are the sort of emotions running through your mind right now?
Well, it first of all was a joint decision, so it wasn't that I didn't want to do it anymore or that he fired me, but we came to a conclusion over the period of 3-4 months where we realized, it was amazing while it lasted. I had an unbelievable time. He's won all the tournaments that he wanted to win, and so that's the end of one chapter. So I'm happy that we came together to a conclusion, and of course, one eye was crying, and the other eye was smiling, because obviously it was a very time-consuming job. It was very intense. It was he's a great player, so we wanted to be even better. So I didn't spend as much time with my family anymore, nor did he, because he was traveling from tournament to tournament. So I have a bit more time again.
So was the decision more to do with wanting to spend time with the family, or was it in any way that you thought you'd already taken whatever benefit you could have got out of the association between the two of you?
I think in a player-coaching relationship or in a coaching-team relationship, everything has its time. You can't be a coach from the same player forever. And when we started out, we had goals that he wanted to achieve. And we did it. I mean, he's won everything he wanted to win. So in a way, you sort of lose the next target, the next big goal. And then, in his case, for him to win all these tournaments, he had to be very one-dimensional, tennis. So he couldn't spend enough time with his family, his friends, his other off-court activities. And so naturally, he did that. That means there's less time for me on the court. So it was sort of a two-edged sword. So we realized, listen, it's time to stay friends and move on.
Well, there were some reports in sections of the press that you were sort of you were pushing him to work harder and get out and do more, and you weren't sure whether he still had that fire in him.
Well, I wouldn't be a good coach if that wouldn't be the case. I'm obviously always motivated. I go to tournaments to win. I go to tournaments to help him lift up the trophy, and that's my job.
Well, part of your job is to push them and keep pushing them. Well, he's just announced, I think, just news coming in, that he's not looking for an immediate replacement for you.
How can you replace me anyway? Come on.
That's what we were all about to say. But he's not looking.
No. But
he's not even trying. He's not even trying to replace you right now.
No.
How about you? Will you be looking for someone else to coach?
I haven't thought about it, honestly. Obviously people ask me what I'm going to do next in tennis. I haven't thought about it. Yes, a few players have called. That's no secret, but I don't intend to take on a new coaching role next week or not this Australian Open. I'll be in Melbourne. I'll be doing the television for various stations because I love the sport. I think I know what I'm talking about. But eventually, if I'm ready for something new, a new challenge, you must understand this is a full-time job. This isn't something you can do from Monday to Friday. It's the weekends. It's every moment that you have to think about what's helping your player to succeed his goals. And I'm not the type of guy that jumps from one player the next day to another player. This is not me.
All right. So he is open. Any of you are really about to go out there and compete? You know whom to start calling for advice and suggestions and take that. So one of the questions that I got on social media, interesting question, Ruchira actually had this question for you. She wanted to know, Becker the coach or Becker the player? Which would you pick?
Well, everything has its time. When I was 25, I was the player, and I'm 49 now, so I'm the coach.
Which would you prefer? Which should you enjoy more?
Everything has its time. I'm happy to be a coach now and not be playing anymore with these young talented players. No.
So talking about talented players, when you take a look at what's happening in India and you look at the tennis talent, and obviously it's changed. You used to have the Ramesh's and all of the world, then the Leander and the Mahesh era, Sania of course. When you're looking at the Indian players, is there a lot of talent that you're seeing in anybody other than the list that I've spoken about among the new players?
Well, you mentioned some of the great ones. Sania, I'd rate her as one, but then you have Leander, Mahesh, Ramesh, Vijay. I played with them all, and they're friends of mine. But I don't know, I'm not involved in the federation, in the youth program. I don't have an academy here, so I couldn't tell you which 17, 19-year-old is talented. But having said that, tennis has such a history in this country. You've had great players for a long time. It's a bit surprising to me why you wouldn't have players in the top 100. I mean, you have a few people in this country. I mean, tennis is popular. It's a great sport. It's shown on television all the time. So promotional wise, it's there. So I don't really understand why you don't have the next big thing out of India.
And interestingly, Indians seem to be doing really well in doubles as opposed to singles. And we have number one doubles players, whether it's Sania, whether it's Leander, Mahesh. They've all been doing exceptionally well, Bopanna as well. Any guess that you could make as to why Indians seem to be doing better in doubles than in singles? Is it just that it's more competitive in singles?
A little bit more competitive, but also it's a mindset. To be an individual, you have to be very self-centered. You have to be somewhat egocentrical. You have to think about yourself a lot, which is a quality as a tennis player, not a quality as a human being. And I think it speaks for this mentality that for the moment you've been excelling more in teamwork than in individual work. But it doesn't help for the tennis.
But there was a view once upon a time which was expressed when you looked at the game of tennis that it was a power game, serve and volley and that sort of stuff that you used to do very well. May not be as well suited for the Indian physique and the Indian tennis players. They tended to be a bit more baseline, slightly gentle. I'm talking about an earlier era, Christian era. It's changing now, and there are some power Indian players as well. But do you think that could be a factor in explaining why India does do well and doesn't do quite as well?
If you talk about the physical aspect of tennis, I think it's a pretty fair game. I mean, you don't have to be 6'6" and Superman to win. Tennis is a game of skill, of intelligence, of intellect, yes, of power and speed and precision. But there are many aspects that you need to get to the top. And just show you, the number ones of the last 25 years. Everybody was a bit different. So I'm sure all these skills are available in India. So I think it's more the coaching, it's more the structure of how to build up a young player. Maybe something to do with federation. Not all the federations, German included, it's perfectly run because it really doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it is becoming one of the Indian strengths, not in singles, but in other ways. We have actually got an individual bronze medal also at the Olympics. Could be more in the case of Leander. I guess fitness might be one of the factors. In the tennis game of today, how important is fitness? Or is it still a lot about skill?
Fitness is the base for everything, for any sport, whether it's 2016 or 1985. If you're not fit, if you can't get to the ball, you can't hit the ball. If you can't play for 3-4 hours, you're not going to win the long matches. So, I mean, that's the fundamentals of any sport.
All right, if I can, let me start getting the first of the questions from the audience and then I'll carry on because I'm going from coaching to India and then I'm going to come to your playing days, of course, and I'm sure there are lots of questions on that. Let me get one question from the audience. The gentleman there, yeah.
I would like to know how to deal with pressure before a match. If we are ready for a big match and I want to think like, no, it's okay, it's a big match, but it's okay. I want to play like I'm playing in my practice session. So how to cope situation like this?
How do you cope with pressure? That in essence.
Funny enough, most top players actually don't practice that well. So if you're good in practice and you're not as good in the match, you have to change your practice a little bit. But having said that, it's a mindset, it's an attitude. A Wimbledon final is not won on that Sunday afternoon, but on a Monday morning practice session somewhere when nobody's watching. There are no cameras. That is when the heart and soul of tennis gets done. It's on those practice hours when it's not for the camera, it's not against an opponent, but it's really against yourself.
All right. So you have to be practicing and you have to be working very hard at it. One other question and then, okay, the gentleman there.
So basically when you joined the Djokovic camp, he was already running riots, he was winning everything. He had a 2011 season So what were the kind of things that he was looking from you as a legend to improve on? Was it the technical aspect or just about how you approach a practice session or a big game?
Well, when I joined his team at the end of 2013, he hasn't been winning the majors anymore. Yes, he had his unbelievable 2011, but then 2012, 2013 was okay for his standards. Again, we're complaining at a very high level. And he dropped from 1 to 2, which for most people, they're happy to be 2, but if you're 1, 2 is the end of the world, right? So he wanted to speak to somebody that has been there, has been at the Wimbledon final, won it, lost it, been number 1, been number 2, just sharing experiences of, as you asked me, the mental aspect of it, because at the end of the day, it's about attitude, it's about having the right mindset in the first round, in the quarterfinal, or in the final, and unless you've really been through that, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right. You have to have the mental attitude. So one more question from the lady there.
I just want to ask you that how did you control your, how did you build up your confidence whenever you know that the opponent is stronger than you?
You never felt the opponent was stronger than you?
No. This is very good question, and it's always this battle within you that you have to first beat yourself and then beat the opponent. And it's accepting reality sometimes. You cannot do more than the very best. Quite often that's enough to go a long way. You'll be surprised how far you come in life if you always give your best. In my sport, I can't influence the opponent. I can't influence circumstances, but I can influence how much I give it a go, how much I try, how much I prepare, how much I work for, and that takes you far.
And I just want to come back to the aspects of mental strength and also when it comes to dealing with people and teamwork. Now, in the singles game, you're out there by yourself. But you've had success in doubles also. You won an Olympic gold medal with Michael Staish, who was in some ways considered a rival of yours.
Exactly, yeah.
How was that experience? Being able to work with somebody who is a potential rival or who's been considered a rival, but you're then in the same team and you're going out and getting a gold medal.
Oh, very difficult. We weren't on speaking terms when we started the tournament. I mean, he was sleeping on the, sharing the same apartment. He was on the left, I was on the right. But eventually our coach got us together and said, listen, you guys won't win any medal if you won't start acting like a team, communicating, just sharing together the court. And that was a very, very wise input. And it was difficult because once you're with your rival at the same court, obviously you don't like him. He's beaten me at Wimbledon, I've beaten him. He's been number 1 in Germany, I've been 2, and the other way around. So there's a lot of friction, but for the good of the game and a bigger cause, you have to focus on that.
So with Michael, it wasn't just that you were rivals and you were fighting to beat each other. There was actually a certain amount of personal animosity.
We did not like each other, trust me. We had nothing in common.
You didn't like each other?
No.
And then you had to go out there and communicate to say we're going to get the gold medal together.
Yes, and we didn't speak. So how can you, promote each other? Not. So up until the quarterfinal, it was possible. But then the semi-final, we played against the number 1 team in the world, Spanish student Casal Sanchez. We wouldn't have won. We were playing in Barcelona against 15,000 Spaniards, against the number 1 team on clay. So either we are a unit, we're a team, or we won't have a chance.
So you started to talk to each other at breakfast that morning?
Pretty much like that. Pretty much like that.
And then after you won the gold medal, then what happened?
We gave each other a big hug, and then amazing. And then I organized a big dinner for us in the city of Barcelona. He went from the locker room straight to the airport, and we haven't celebrated since, and that's 25 years ago. Having said that, we're getting better. We're getting better. I've seen him last year in Germany, and he said, Boris, we haven't celebrated our gold medal yet. And I said, you're absolutely right, because I won it because of you, and you won it because of me. So give us another 10 years to organize the dinner. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
Eventually we'll have a dinner to celebrate. Now, obviously one of the examples that I was leading up to with all of that is that we've had that same experience here in India, and we think in this country that we probably have lost either upgrading an Olympic medal or winning a couple of Olympic medals because of some of these issues. The last Olympics that happened, this Olympics happened, you had some of the top players, Leander Mahesh, for example, not wanting to play with each other, and lots of issues that are coming up in that. What would be the advice you would be telling them? How do you just get over it?
think of the bigger cause. This is not about you representing yourself, it's about representing your country at the Olympic Games. So either you want to win the gold or a medal, meaning you have to work together, or you don't have a chance.
Is it better in your view to have the two best players, even if they don't get on too well, or to have two people who may not be necessarily the best, but who have a really good working relationship?
Well,
What would be your advice?
ideally you want to have the two best players. And if they're not on any relationship or any personal terms, then find a way beforehand, because those two combined, they just have to understand together they're stronger than alone. And once they get that, they'll win.
Right. Well, we keep waiting for a chance to convert Martina Hingis into Indian citizenship because she wins with Leander, she's winning with
Exactly.
Sania. If only we could convince Martina to become an Indian, I'm sure we'd be getting lots of gold medals out there. Right. I'm going to start taking some online questions, or somebody will send them in. But let me take one more question from the audience before I go to his playing career. Right. The gentleman down there. Yeah.
So, do you think that height plays a crucial role in the game of tennis?
Yes and no, meaning you don't have to be the tallest player to win, but it doesn't help if you're the shortest either. So if you are, somewhere between, let's say 5'8", 5'7", 5'8", and 6'5", I think that's a pretty wide range for you to succeed. Tennis is not about height or power. First and foremost, it's about your mind. What are you willing to do? And it has nothing to do with your legs or your arm.
Oh, somewhat related to that, so I'm taking a question from Facebook now. Pranjal Sharma, is it a sport? He said, is it a sport for the tall person? He's asking a question that is it a rich man's game? Is tennis a rich man's game?
Certainly, when I started, you had to have a little bit of money in your pocket because tennis rackets, shoes, hours are expensive. I think tennis has developed nicely over the last 25, 30 years, so it is less expensive than it was, but it's certainly not cheap. So if you have federations and sponsors and big sporting brands supporting you, yes, take it, because it's not cheap.